Hey guys, welcome to Melbourne, Australia. As some of you will have known, Fujifilm sent me an X-Pro2 at the start of December to test out, and I've been using it for about a month now, and this video is going to run through my thoughts on using a Fujifilm system over my Canon system, and thoughts on the X-Pro2 specifically. So let's take a walk along the river, and I'll run you through those thoughts right now. So if you hadn't seen my previous video of unboxing the equipment that Fujifilm sent me, they sent me obviously the X-Pro2, along with this 35mm f2 lens, along with a 50-140 f2.8 and a 10-24 f4 with the optical image stabilizer. So over Christmas, I took this camera with me on a couple of trips. I went up to Byron Bay and then also to Brisbane in Queensland. And I really wanted to just see what this was like as a main camera system. So you probably know that I've been interested in Fujifilm ever since I recommended Ellie get an X-T10 when we were in Japan. You can see that video up here. So I'm not necessarily going to talk so much about the specs of the camera. You can see all of that in the description, and of course you can check it out online everywhere as well. But I do just want to kind of go over the usability of this camera system, because for me, specs don't necessarily change the way I take photos, but by having a camera that's more usable and more enjoyable to use, that makes me take more photos, which in turn makes me a better photographer. So a couple of the specs that I will mention, just because I know some of you will be interested in that. This is a 24 megapixel sensor, and it's got a X-Trans sensor. Now that means there's no low pass filter in front of the sensor. All of the RGB pixels are randomly arranged, so it reduces any sort of moire pattern or any sort of fixed pattern noise because it's a random array of pixels. One of the key features of the X-Pro2 is this hybrid viewfinder. So that can switch from an optical to an electronic viewfinder with the flick of a simple switch on the front. So I can use it as an old school rangefinder camera, which is just literally looking through the viewfinder and it shows whatever's through this little window. Or I can switch it to the EVF and I can get an exact digital representation of what the picture is as I'm taking it. As with most mirrorless cameras, when you take a photo, you'll see a preview of it after you've taken it. This one shows it for just half a second, which is perfect timing to move on to your next shot. So one of the things that I continue to mention about Fujifilm cameras is the Colorscience. So Fuji have obviously got a deep history in film photography and even digital, obviously, for the last 15 odd years or so. And their colors are just fantastic. Even if you're shooting JPEG, the images that you'll get from it will be amazing. What's amazing with these is you have various different color profiles built into the camera, and if you shoot in RAW, you can change them in your post-production as well. So within the camera, you can actually change picture profile through these various different ones related to Fujifilm. And they just adjust the picture ever so slightly with the shadows and the contrast. And it just kind of gives you a good starting point with your colors before you go into editing them within your software, such as Lightroom or Photo Ninja or whatever. So the photos that I've got have mostly just kind of been, I guess, snapshots and just kind of like test use cases as I've been kind of making these vlogs and going out shooting. We have actually posted a lot of those photos on the Jelly Journeys travel blog, so if you've never seen that, it's jellyjourneys.com, and there's quite a few posts on there. Both Ellie and myself have been using Fujifilm for the past month, so you can really see the quality of the images from this camera. So we have found ourselves using the 35mm f2 lens probably most of the time. It's just such a nice portable, very small and discreet form factor, and it's just such a sharp lens. And what's really nice about this camera is it just makes me want to take photos. Even if I'm not taking photos of anything, you know, too interesting or too standout amazing, it makes me want to take photos. And to me, that is a great usability factor of a camera. If it makes me want to take photos, I'll go out and I'll shoot more. And over time, that means that you're getting better with your photography. You can see the lighting's looking really good over there. So I think we can like make our way around and it'll look good. So along with the small form factor of this lens and the camera itself, it just makes me want to have it with me all the time. I just found myself picking it up, putting it in my bag, or just carrying it on its own, no strap or anything, and it's really not a burden to have with me. With the build quality of this, so it's got a magnesium alloy chassis and everything, it just feels indestructible. Like, it honestly feels like it's built like a tank, and that is just great. It just means that I honestly don't have to worry too much when I'm out shooting with this camera. Lighting is just so good. Okay, let's make our way around. So other than what I've already said about what I enjoy about this camera, I've got a few other points that I just want to make. So first and foremost, this camera has such a fast startup time, especially in comparison to my Sony a7R, which is pretty slow when you turn it on, if I'm honest. When you turn this on, it's pretty much ready to go in less than half a second. I think the official line is like 0.4 seconds, something like that, which is pretty comparable to a DSLR, which I think runs at about 0.2 if you're interested. So it's fast to start up, which means I can pull it out and take a shot, click it, off, no problems. I'm saving battery as I do that because this is a mirrorless camera, so the battery doesn't run as long as a DSLR. Some other features that I really enjoy about this, you've got a joystick on the back, which is new to the X-Pro2, I believe, over the X-Pro1. It's also on the X-T2 rather than on the X-T1. And that little joystick means you can adjust your AF selection point very nimbly, very easily. You just kind of flick it, it moves really fast, and you can change the point of your focus. Really nice, really handy. I love this little stick. So as I've mentioned in some of my other videos, I've been using the EVF more than the OVF. Generally, when you're using with longer lenses and stuff, the optical viewfinder is kind of not useful, if I'm honest. This camera is really designed for that sort of street, sort of discreet use, so you're not really going to be using it with long lenses. I've just had one to test with it. That being said, one thing that's really kind of bothered me with the viewfinder, and I've mentioned it before, is it doesn't really stick out that far, which kind of means that my eyelashes can get in the way. It's a minor thing, and I've grown to get used to it, but it's just how it is. So alongside this camera being quite small and discreet, one feature that I really enjoy is you can actually turn it into a silent shutter mode. So if you change the shutter mode to electronic shutter rather than mechanical shutter, you can literally take silent shots. Look at this. No noise whatsoever. That just adds to how discreet this camera can be. So that silent shutter makes this perfect for street photographers and people who want to take images without other people knowing that they're taking images and just kind of get more natural shots. Now, of course, not every camera is perfect. And although there are some features of the Fujifilm that I do really enjoy, such as all of the dials being manual so that you can change your shutter speed, your aperture, and other things like that, some of those can be a little bit frustrating. For example, the exposure comp, because of its position right on the edge of the body, sometimes you can actually spin it and move it around, or it can brush against your side and it will adjust it without you really realizing it. You'll take a photo, it will come out dark or come out light, and it's just one thing that's very easily nudged. I'd love it if there was a lock switch on here so you could just lock it to position it and move it. Second to that, the dial here for the diopter is equally as easily nudged. The amount of times I do pick it up and it's completely out of focus because I've switched that round and I need to reset it for my eyes. That's kind of annoying because it does mean that you could potentially miss shots. So again, it would be nice if that was maybe on the other side, or as it is on the X-T2 and the X-T1, that's not a problem because your viewfinder is in the center. It's just because it's right on the edge of the body. That's one thing that's kind of really annoying for me. So one thing I did notice when I first picked out this camera is the positioning of the ISO dial. And it's intertwined with the shutter speed dial, and you just kind of lift the casing and twist it around. I thought it was maybe a bit fiddly. As I've been using it over the past month, I found it to be okay. It's not the best, but it's not the worst either. One of the problems I have noticed with it though is if you do set a custom shutter speed, at some point your ISO dial will be upside down, which is kind of not the greatest, but you can live with it. Generally speaking, I've been using this camera in auto shutter and setting my aperture manually, so it's the equivalent of an aperture priority. And that way your ISO is still visible the right way around. That was quite a lengthy way of saying it's okay. So just a couple more points about things that have kind of bothered me with the camera. Now, one of them is the positioning of the AF lock and the AE lock buttons. They're very separate. Now, compared to my Canon, which is very much like next to each other, I can press them both at the same time. On this one, I can't do that. So if I wanted to get my exposure and then recompose after locking it, I can't do the autofocus and the auto exposure at the same time. So it doesn't happen often that I need to do that, but when I do, it's kind of annoying that they're not next to each other, but it's a minor thing really. Speaking of autofocus, when we put the camera into AF continuous, you'll notice that as you're kind of taking the shot, the focus kind of breathes in and out. It doesn't really hold a static as it's continuing to focus. Now, it doesn't really affect the image after you've taken it. It's pretty much always sharp, but it is a little distracting how it's breathing in and out. as you're trying to focus. So I've generally found myself using it in AF single shot mode rather than continuous. It's not a problem for me. If I was doing any sort of fast moving things, then I'd probably want it in continuous, and that breathing of the focus is kind of distracting. I'm not sure if it's the same on the new X-T2, which has a much faster focus rate and much faster frame rate as well. They may have corrected that, or it could be something to do with the lens. I'm not sure, but it's just something I've picked up on. So I'm going to close out this video now before I get eaten to death by mosquitoes, and also before I send this camera back to Fujifilm tomorrow. So some of my final thoughts on using this. So first and foremost, I have thoroughly enjoyed shooting with Fujifilm. If I'm honest, I've really not missed having my Canon with me at all, and this has covered pretty much all of my needs, except for the video side of things, which is where I use the Sony a7R. So I'm intrigued to know what the Fujifilm X-T2 is like for video, because that's got a huge focus on new video with F-Log and other features that make it so much better. But as I said many times, this X-Pro2 is designed for photography, not video. So I also have some further thoughts on my blog as well, rounding up all of the videos that I've made over the past month related to the Fujifilm X-Pro2. And of course, check out the Jelly Journeys blog. We'll have all of the photos and other things that have been taken solely with this one, and also Ellie's X-T10, if you're interested in what the photos are like from that. And finally, you can also find us on Instagram, and we'll have loads of photos posted with these. And also I'm going to throw a few examples on the screen so that you can see some of the variety of shots that I've taken, and I'll just close out with that. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you're new to my channel, my name is Joe Allam, and I create a lot of content about photography and travel. And if you want to see more videos like this, then hit that subscribe button followed by the bell icon, and you'll get notified of new videos that I publish. So I hope to see you again soon, and thanks for watching. See you later. Bye bye. Okay, so one final point as the light is just dipping. If there's anything that I've forgotten or anything that I realize I should have mentioned as I'm editing this video, you can find all of that either in the description below or in my blog post. So make sure you go and check that out. All the links will be in the description. All right.